So if you're wondering where is surrogacy legal, you just hit part 2 of my video series on where is surrogacy legal. I'm Corlandos Scott and I'm an assistant reproduction attorney in California who dedicates his whole practice to helping people grow their families through assisted reproductive technologies like surrogacy. So if you're wondering where is it legal, you're in the right place. Now, before we dive in today, if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you go ahead and click and go back and watch part 1, where I introduce my favorite states in the United States to do surrogacy. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go through and list all the states in the country and what their laws are, because most of the states that are friendly or unfriendly really have similar laws, so to talk about them broadly will help us go a long way. Now, in part 1, I talked about the friendly states. In this video, we're going to look at some somewhat friendly states, and I'll get to what I mean by that. I'm also just going to run down a list and review a few states for you, and then we'll wrap things up by talking about, well, less than friendly states. So let's run through a list of my somewhat friendly surrogacy states. Now, what I mean by somewhat friendly is they either do allow some form of surrogacy and they facilitate laws that allow for parents to be ruled as the legal parents by court order, or they're just kind of silent, and so people have been successful in doing the process in that state because there are no prohibitions against surrogacy. Let's pull out the list. First up, we have my birth state, Alabama. Sweet home Alabama. Well, in Alabama, there are no surrogacy laws, so to speak. So courts are generally favorable towards the surrogacy process, granted that it's handled properly and efficiently. So you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. You want to always consult your lawyer or a lawyer in the state where you're looking to do it. But you want to know where in the state have people had success getting court orders. You want to make sure that there's a contract. You want to make sure you know in a state that has no laws on the books what typically goes in the contracts that get through the court process in that state. So, Alabama, good on you. Arkansas. In Arkansas, it's permitted. There's no specific surrogacy laws. However, one of the things you need to keep in mind in Arkansas is it's friendly towards married intended parents. All right, let's go ahead and round out this list. We have Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Kansas, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Maryland, Montana, Minnesota, Missouri, New Jersey, North Carolina, North Dakota, New Mexico, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. Now, remember, these states are not all created equally. They're somewhat friendly, so that means the laws may vary from state to state. For instance, one that comes to mind is Hawaii, where you have to do a post-birth adoption process. Now, you can undergo the surrogacy process, but just know there's more steps because they don't outlaw it or ban it. They're just somewhat friendly. Now let's talk about the less friendly states. Now, these states are a little different from the states that absolutely ban surrogacy, like we talked about in a previous video. So if you want to see that video about states that are absolutely not good at all, go back and watch my video on where is surrogacy illegal in the United States. So when I'm talking about less friendly surrogacy states, I'm talking about states that allow surrogacy, but with a few catches that you better be certain about. In states like these, a lot of people really proceed at their own risks. One of the things that comes to mind, for instance, is a state that does not recognize surrogacy contracts. They're unenforceable in the state, but intended parents have been known to obtain pre-birth orders in that state. Again, it definitely comes with some catches and you have to proceed at your own risk. But let's look at a few of the less friendly surrogacy states. All right, first on the list is Alaska. Then we have Arizona. Be cautious in Arizona. That's all I'll say about that. We have Iowa, Idaho, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, and Wyoming. Now again, Some of these states have very specific laws that you must abide by. And it's not saying that you can't do surrogacy in those states, absolutely, but you better be careful. For instance, in Michigan, you better not do any compensated surrogacy. It better be altruistic. Or for instance, in Louisiana, you better be a married couple using your own gametes. Gametes is just a fancy medical word for reproductive stuff, eggs and sperm. So just keep that in mind. Although I ran through the list and put them all together, they're not all created equally. Make sure you consult a professional in the state that you're looking to do surrogacy in. So just remember, when you're talking about surrogacy and how it varies from state to state, it really depends on the state's laws and even your relationship status. So for somebody that surrogacy is a yes for another person it could be a maybe. And for one person that it's a maybe for another person altogether it could be a no. Get professional help. If you're looking at undertaking the surrogacy process, I have something just for you and it's absolutely free. It's called Stress-Free Surrogacy, and it's a training that I put together that walks you through the surrogacy process. I explain how things work. I even bring in case studies from previous clients that I've helped walk through the surrogacy process. And after you go through the training, you'll be well on your way to turning your dream of having a baby into the reality of that delivery day.